Before we begin the show, just a reminder, we have 224 other car tests to watch. Give it a peek sometime. Today we're going to be driving the 2017 Lexus RCF. As far as exterior styling goes, the RCF looks quite similar to the more expensive Lexus LC500 series. By the way, a few weeks ago we also tested another Lexus performance car, the LC500H Hybrid. We'll have a link for that test at the end of this video. At $108,000 you can afford it. $1,000 a month for 108 months. The big difference is in price, so we'll look at the window sticker and see the difference. So we have the base price of $64,185. Optional hand polish, not polished, hand polish 20-spoke forged alloy wheels, $1,500. Twin beam LED headlights, $1,160. Wow. Leather interior, $800. Navigation system with Mark Levinson audio. Wow. Navigation system with the Mark Levinson audio system, 17 speakers, 835 watts. $2,550. But they're not done with you yet because they want $5,300. And that's for the performance package with the carbon fiber roof and, well, you can read this, torque, victory rear differential. And their premium package with all the luxury stuff we don't really need but get anyway, $3,240. Illuminated door sills, oh, we gotta have that, right? $449. I do think charging an extra $105 for a carpeted trunk mat is kind of outrageous. That should be standard equipment, but they just can't help themselves. Here's the total tab. 80 grand. Well, that's not cheap, but it's about 30 grand cheaper than the Lexus LC500 Hybrid we tested 2 weeks ago. And if you can afford that 80 grand, you won't be complaining about the dismal fuel economy. But who's complaining when you're having fun, right? One of the first things we usually do when we get a vehicle is take the headlights out in the dark and evaluate the performance. Since they're charging an extra $1,160 for these lights, I'm rather curious what they'll do. So let's take them out right now, see what happens. It's dark enough, so let's take these headlights out and see how they perform. Here we have the high beams on a building 100 feet away, plenty of light. Then we go to the low beam. Bright lights, but very short cutoff. Maybe adequate for city driving, but on backcountry roads, this might be an issue. Here we have the high beams on a building 300 feet away. Excellent light here, but we go to low beam. Cutoff is rather short. On backcountry roads, you notice how well the high beams do. We can see signs about a half mile away. But you go to the low beam, notice how the light disappears on the road when you're entering dips. So on back roads like this, you'll need to keep the brights on. I came out here last week in a Lexus 500 and ran into a snake. Looks like we got another rattler, but I don't think he's moving anytime soon. I'll take him home, make some good eating. Uh-oh, there's a couple more over there in the bushes. I'd say these headlights work pretty good then. So the question of the day, are these LED headlights worth the extra $1,160 on the option sheet? Well, if you're in the habit of driving with the brights on roads like this, I would say definitely yes. If you're in the habit of driving in the low beams, maybe not so much. I have not driven the standard non-LED headlights, so I can't compare them to these. So I'll just say, leave the choice to you. The RCF gets a 5-liter V8, putting out 467 horsepower, 389 pounds-feet of torque, hooked to an 8-speed automatic transmission. There are some V6 engines and a 4-cylinder hybrid offered in the RC line, but that's the subject of another video. If you want to know how to spot the V8s from the V6 and hybrids, just take a look at that awesome exhaust system, or listen to it. The only thing that sounds better than a good old-fashioned V8 is a nice modern Lexus V8. So let's take a look at the cabin, where we'll review the positive features and a few negative ones. There's plenty of room inside the glove box, but only if you take out this monster-sized owner's manual that's thicker than a brick, like so. With 10 cubic feet, there's plenty of room for that in the trunk, where I'm going to toss it. In case you're asking, no, there is no spare tire in this vehicle. If you get a flat, you might have an issue. Just a chintzy tire repair kit. The sun visors do slide back and forth to assist blocking out the sun from the side windows, although maybe not far enough as some people would like, but better than something than nothing. There is a button here to disconnect the auto-dimming mirror system, so when you're driving at night you can actually see what's in the mirror instead of blacked out glass. A very good feature to have. If you want ventilated seats, push button away. Here's a button that gives you 4 modes of operation: Eco, Normal, Sport, and Sport Plus. When you operate this style, you get different images in the gauge cluster, like so. Useful information on the display screen. Part of that optional performance package we saw on the window sticker includes the torque vectoring differential. Here's the button for that right here. Here are the 3 modes you get: track, normal, slalom. The climate controls are very easy to use, although I didn't really care for this finger touch setup for the temperature, but it works well enough. Knobs are better. Fortunately, we get a knob for the volume and a knob for the tuning on the radio system. Thank you. We appreciated the paddle shifters mounted on the steering wheel, where they can be reached all the time, instead of on a steering column like the Italian cars do, where they can only be reached part of the time. They belong on the steering wheel. Thank you, Lexus. And last but not least, these front seats are very comfortable and ventilated for heat or cooling. Unfortunately, there were some negative things about the cabin, so we're going to have to mention those too. And since we're talking about seats, we've got 2 claustrophobic in the back. The only way you're going to fit any human beings back there is if you cut their legs off. If you've got visiting relatives you want to get rid of, just stick them back here for a couple hours. They'll go home soon. The second gripe are these extra wide rocker panels under the door. You're going to be rubbing your leg on this bodywork every time you get in and out of the car, which can be a problem because all the mud, sand, and grit gets on this outer body panel and right on your pants. So you have to keep a bottle of glass cleaner and rags in the trunk. Keep this wiped down if you live where it gets dirty out in the roads. And last but not least, one feature I did not care for at all: they did away with the joystick for the infotainment system and did a finger touch instead. You see people on YouTube demonstrating this, telling you how easy it is, but notice they're always sitting still in the car. Doing this while you're driving and the cars are bouncing around, it just doesn't work. Enough with the show and tell, it's time to do some driving. That's what you're watching the video for, right? It'll be interesting to see what the real-world fuel economy is as well. I've been getting around 16.4 miles per gallon in city commuting. We're going to reset the computer and do a highway trip and see if we can bump this figure up. So let the trip begin. On this trip, we'll have the cruise control set at 70 miles per hour. Like so. Okay, the EPA says 25 mpg on the highway. Let's see what we got. 40-mile trip, 27.8. Not bad. By the way, this is only a 17-gallon fuel tank, so you might get an extended range like this in freeway driving. But in the city, when you're getting around 15 to 16 mpg, don't plan on going very far. And plan on stopping at the gas stations quite often. We're going to take this car on a road trip today, putting on around 300 miles, so stay tuned. This car is reasonably quiet on the freeway when you're on smooth pavement anyway. You might hear a bunch of whooshing noises on the microphone, but that's coming from the air conditioning because it's about 100 degrees outside. On the other hand, these tires are some of the noisiest I've ever had on a car. And when we reach some rough pavement, you're going to hear a lot of droning and rumbling. We'll blame the tires and not the car at this point. I still haven't been able to figure out how a car this small can weigh a whopping 2 tons dry. That's almost as much as the Dodge Challenger. And that thing is a house. Every time we come down this road, we make a stop to say hello to my favorite pal. There he is on the hill. Tommy the Toad. Big one, ain't he? Alright, let's continue on. In spite of its hefty weight, Lexus claims this vehicle can reach 0 to 60 in 4.4 seconds, which I verified, and a top speed of 168 miles per hour, which I'm not going to verify. But trust me, this V8 is quick enough. Sounds pretty good too. It's on roads like this where the paddle shifters really come in handy. You just lock in the gear you want, leave it there, then do your driving. And climbing the steep grade, the V8 does a great job of pulling the car. I have 2 Mustang GTs who've been trying to put me in their rearview mirror at a long distance, but they're not being very successful at it. I'm faster than you guys. Well, at least equal maybe. This is a very dangerous road, hairpin curves, big cliff drop-offs. You don't want to be driving quick in a car that can't handle, but this car handles quite well, so don't think it's going to be an issue. We just completed about 70 miles of brisk driving, going around mountain curves and steep grades. 19.7 mpg, not bad really. I'm impressed with this braking system. We have a perfect pedal feel and these giant rotors with 6 pistons. Pretty hard to get these overheated. I haven't been able to. For those of you who want to try the top 168 mile per hour speed, there's a carbon fiber rear spoiler that can pop up manually or automatically to help stabilize the rear end. And it looks cool. Before we get back on the road, I know I'm going to get some emails from people telling me what a great system this finger touch infotainment system is. So I'm going to give you another reason why you shouldn't like this. In the past few days, I found out that if you get a coating of dust on here, it will not read your finger and basically shut down and not work at all. If you live in Alaska or Hawaii where there's no dust, good for you. But when you live in a desert environment where there's 20 trillion tons of dust out here, and we've had 20 to 30 mile per hour windstorms all week, blowing dust and sand all over the vehicle, keeping a bottle of glass cleaner handy and wiping this down has become a twice-a-day chore. Nothing serious, just a pain. By the way, I'm kind of curious what happens when you spill your coffee and it goes down in there. Anybody want to volunteer to show us? I can't do that. Lexus wants their cars back in perfect shape. But like I said earlier in the video, you're going to need to keep a bottle of glass cleaner and rags handy to clean these rocker panels every now and then. So if you keep the same handy to clean the touchpad, I guess it's not that big a deal. Speaking of keeping things clean, black cars get dirty. So if you live in the desert, you're going to be doing a lot of this. We're racking up the miles quickly, almost to the 600 mark. We'll be putting on some more before we're done. I forgot to mention we have a button for driving in snow. I don't think that's going to happen on this trip. This variable differential system, that's part of the performance package, is supposed to improve cornerability in tight turns by transferring power from one wheel to another. Right now I do have it in track mode, before that the slalom mode and normal mode. And in all three situations the car hugs the road just fine. I don't really see any difference on the street. If we had the vehicle on a racetrack where we were going full throttle 100%, we might see a difference, but I don't have the ability to do that on this test. So we'll have to leave that for another test on another video. In spite of the differential system you order on the RCF, I can tell you that in terms of performance, as in steering, cornering, high-speed stability and braking, this vehicle performs just as well as the Lexus LC500 we tested several weeks ago, which was a lot more money, of course. And as I'm sure I've mentioned several times this video, the RCF is about $30,000 less expensive than the LC500 series. So it's time to head to the homestead and wrap this test up, if I've got any fuel left. I've said this before in my videos, if you're driving a fast car on curved roads, keep your eyes on the road. Don't be looking down there, it's dangerous. You want to be safe like me, keep your eyes in front of you. See, like that. Safety tip from me to you. So here's my take on the Lexus RCF. No, it does not have the super luxury interior or the softer ride of the more expensive Lexus LC500 series, but it has the same looks, same performance. Did I mention it's around $30,000 less? And if you don't need the power of that big V8, or don't have the money for the $80,000 price tag, there's always the V6 version, which is probably the best all-around choice. Some might argue this Lexus doesn't have the status of many German sporty cars, but then again, it's not going to fall apart out of warranty like the sporty German cars do. Bottom line, Lexus is a more reliable brand, a proven fact, and that's worth a few bucks extra in itself. If you can afford the price of admission, you're going to be happy with this. As far as this touchpad goes, no, I still don't like it, but it's not a deal killer. I'd still buy the car anyway. And with a bit of practice, you might master it. Here's a link to some other Lexus vehicles we tested on video. In the meantime, if you'll pardon me, I need to go wash this car again.